Now, I should say my own feelings on Hans has changed quite a lot. I used to be a very, very big fan. I still enjoy immensely the Gladiator soundtrack, as well as Colossus and Batman Begins. But over time, more and more, I've come to become much more cool to Hans Zimmer. I'm no longer in love with everything he does. I'm much more skeptical. But he is doing quite a few things for Dune, so we're going to let Gwen take over for a moment and he'll explain a little further just how involved Hans Zimmer is in Dune 2021.
But Hans Zimmer actually, this was a cool bit because there was like interviews with Denis Villeneuve and Hans Zimmer as well. Hans Zimmer says that this is the one project that he always wanted to make, the same way Denis Villeneuve always wanted to make this movie. For the sound design of this movie, for the music, Hans Zimmer created new instruments. He designed new instruments. The Harkonnen sound design is like nothing I have ever heard. It's like nothing. It's like this weird. It's like it's terrifying. It's so sinister. It's sinister to the core. Absolutely Hans Zimmer showed out. Absolutely Hans Zimmer showed out.
Point is referring to is that Hans Zimmer has apparently created entirely new instruments just for Dune itself. In other words, he literally created entirely new musical instruments to produce sounds and music for Dune. And I would say I'm impressed, but having already listened to some of the soundtrack, I'm not exactly overwhelmed with what the results were. But aside from just that novelty, he apparently did pass over Christopher Nolan, so he is making a bit of a sacrifice. Well, not in terms of money. I mean, he's a rich person, so he doesn't need the work. This is a dream project he's wanted to do for a very, very long time, and he's putting quite a lot of effort. To me, it's still a little bit mixed. I mean, we've heard a little bit of the music in the trailer, so if you want a little bit of sample, just go to the trailer, listen to the background, and you're getting some of the Hans Zimmer soundtrack. Still kind of puzzled by what he's going for. Like, some of the things he does make sense, like the chanting at the end. All right, that makes sense, but that's been done a million times. I'm not sure what's innovative about doing that. And then in other places, it sort of sounds like a lot of like heavy metal. So I'm like, does that really fit the mood or the story? For me, so far, he's getting a mixed grade. I will say I do have a bit of a Star Wars bias, not in terms of the story or even the mythology, but I do think John Williams is a much, much, much better composer. And if I had to put my vote down, I'd say he's probably the best composer living today, and I always enjoy his music. There's almost no composition of his that I ever find poor. I either love it or I think it's pretty good. It's just not into my. This is not just to my taste. But Hans Zimmer is really hit or miss for me a lot of times. Still, I wish him a lot of success. If both the movie and soundtrack do spectacularly well, that can only be helpful to Dune 2021 and hopefully getting a sequel. But I gotta be honest, I fully expect I'm gonna give Dune a very praiseworthy review, but I may be a little bit more mixed on the music. I still think the David Lynch version and the music in that movie is far superior, and it still stands the test of time. I would really recommend people check that out. Even if you don't think the Lynch version in terms of the movie itself is all that good, the soundtrack is pretty astonishing, and I think they did an amazing job on that. But again, gotta give Hans a lot of respect that he invented entirely new instruments and he was willing to say no to Christopher Nolan just to do this project. And I hope, don't believe me, check out the music for yourself. Maybe it'll really move you, but I just didn't find it as powerful as he says it is. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm a little too prejudiced. Hopefully I'll be wrong and I'll be overwhelmed when I see Dune in theaters. But it's good on that Hans is really putting a huge amount of effort. I would not take that away from him. He does put an amazing amount of effort into his compositions, but I just found him more recently just not the transcendently powerful composer I used to think he is, but that's me. All right, this has been a video essay on the Hans Zimmer factor in Dune 2021.